Hello, I'm Michael, and welcome to MD in the Shop. Like my father in law Dieter says, it's time to shut up and work. All right, it is February the 24th, 2021, in the shop. About what, 7:30 p.m. And we're going to work on some stuff. So, we're going to try the two camera setup today and see if we can get the audio synced up using the lavalier mic tucked into the beard there. So, I will mark and turn off the heater. All right, here we are back in the shop tonight, and we are going to chop up a little bit more steel. So, a couple of different ways we can do this. Zip disc. It's going to be fast, economical, in that most guys who are into a shop have an angle grinder. You can pick one up, a decent one for under $100, and zip discs are pretty easy to come by, pretty cost effective as well. I actually have this beast over here, which is the Milwaukee. I believe it's a 14-inch cutoff saw. It's an abrasive wheel. Works like a charm, super noisy, and makes a very big mess. So I like using it because it does a great job of making nice clean cuts. And if you want to get nice clean cuts to help you get nice clean welds, it is a great tool to have. You can pick one of those things up for, I don't know, 150, $200. I'm sure you can get ones that are cheaper. I like buying tools one time. I hate doing stuff over again. So I like investing in at least mid-range quality tools so that way I don't have to replace them all the time. Nothing pisses me off more than spending good money on cheap tools or cheap materials, and then I have to go back and do the work all over again and spend the money a second time on getting stuff uh, the second time round and investing the money on the second try. It really drives me nuts. So sometimes I might spend a little bit more on materials or tools than I should or I could, just because I really want that level of assurance and insurance that I don't have to go back and do it again. So to me, buying a good Milwaukee tool like that, or like a Makita or a DeWalt or something like that, uh, those are investments in tools that you're going to have for a long time to come, especially if you're working on a vehicle like this. So yeah, I've got the friction cutoff wheel. I bought that thing like 20 years ago. It has cut a ton of steel for me. So it owes me nothing, and it just keeps on going like the day I bought it. Now, they've got these really cool blades and chop saws that you can get now. Similar kind of idea. They're like a 12 to 14, 15-inch blade. But it's got a blade more like an actual wood saw, but it's made for metal and does a great job of cutting aluminum, brass, even mild steel. I'd stay away from stainless on that kind of thing because I think it just go through blades like poop through a goose. So for those kinds of materials, I think they do a great job. The thing for me is a saw like that is going to cost me north of $800. So I have the chop saw already. I can deal with the dust and the dirt and the noise. I just, if I was going to start from scratch right now and I didn't have a tool like this already, I would seriously consider investing in one of these new saws because they do give you beautifully clean cuts and you don't get all the dust and the dirt and the crap that you get from the abrasive style cutoff saw. The next option is to go to a automated style um, bandsaw, right? A horizontal bandsaw. So those are great. They have almost no mess other than a bit of cutting fluid, which is easy enough to clean off. They do beautiful cuts. And the nice thing is, especially if you're cutting a handful of stuff, You can line it all up, drop the blade on that sucker, and walk away and go do something else for a couple of minutes while your cuts are happening. So they can really help with your efficiencies. The thing is, for me, I don't have a lot of room, so I don't have a saw like that here. The friction saw works fine, does a great job. Now, my dad built his first race car in his single car garage with a hacksaw and cut through all of the steel tube using an acetylene torch and a hacksaw. I'd like to think I've progressed a little bit beyond those days. You can certainly do it. My dad built a 10-second quarter-mile car using a torch and a hacksaw and an arc welder. So totally doable. I think an investment in tools will give you a better quality product and save you time in the long run, but you got to go with what your budget will allow. So let's get into chopping up a few more sticks of tubing here. I am going to cut up the rest of the 2x3 that I have into lengths that I need for putting the jig together. And we're going to start chopping up the legs, which I have determined based on my plans here that we are going to have a table that's going to be a little bit lower than I originally thought. And I'm going to keep the deck of the jig around 20 inches. So that's going to leave me with pieces I need to cut at 10 inches. So let's get to cutting. All right, before we get to actually cutting, a couple of things about safety. I am becoming more concerned about safety things as I get a little bit older because my eyes are starting to go a little bit and I get a little bit of ringing in my ears sometimes. So when I'm doing stuff that I know is going to be making a lot of noise, I prefer earplugs because honestly, it keeps me up at night. And, you know, it might not show up today and it might not show up tomorrow or next week, but I feel that protecting your hearing is, you know, worth the couple of seconds it takes to pop in some earplugs like that, because losing your hearing down the road is no fun. The other thing that I like to do when I'm cutting with these things, I wear gloves because, and these are nice leather padded gloves, and they've got a mesh back, so they're a little bit more comfortable. They don't get as hot, but the leather with a bit of padding in there, really comfortable. The other thing I'm going to wear tonight is one of these pretty cheapo paper style respirators, just because this thing does throw a ton of crap in the air. It's the steel coming off as well as the dust from the friction disc as well. And that stuff is nasty for your lungs. So I'm going to do what I can to try to keep at least some of it out of there. And then, of course, some decent safety wear for the eyes. Now, I know this is going to look pretty ridiculous. I'm going to look like, I don't know, an old Italian guy wearing a bikini. As soon as I put this thing on here, I'm going to have all my beard hair sticking out. But I know. That's a good look, eh? Don't worry, ladies. I'm already married. So you can stay at bay for now and save yourself from this. Let's get to work. So now we have our steel looking nice and clean. Now, there's a little bit of rust on there and a little bit of mill scale oil. I'm gonna wire feed all this stuff together, so I'm not too worried about it. You know, it's not that big of a deal for a MIG welder to get through that stuff. So, you look at these 4 pieces here. There you go. We're in good shape. All right. So, one thing I want to illustrate here too. Take a look at this mask. Right? I know I did touch it once or twice with my gloves, but there's a lot of crap on there. Right? That's stuff that would be in my lungs right now if I wasn't wearing this mask. So even a cheapo, 50-cent paper mask, it's going to take a lot of the crud out of the air so you don't have to breathe it in. And I would rather wear this stupid mask and have to deal with that for a few minutes than be coughing that stuff up for the rest of the night. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stick with the mask for now. All right. So now we have our 2 lengths cut to 190 inches. The 2x3 tubes, those are going to run from the front all the way through to the back. And we have our cross pieces cut at 32 inches. So the frame rails are going to sit directly on top of the jig. And we have our legs cut to 10 inches. And the next step is going to be all right, so the next step is going to be to take these plates, which I have made to fit these casters, right? So we have these all set to go, right? Those are going to get welded onto there. And that's going to form our leg for us. Now, what I have to figure out next is how I am going to make this all adjustable. My concrete floor is like everybody else's concrete floors, that they're not perfectly true and level. So I've got a couple of ideas as to what I'm going to do to take this wheel with the plate sitting like this, and then have the table sitting on top of it. So I'm debating now whether I'm going to make the adjustment down here by the wheel or if I'm going to make it up here by the table. So if I make the adjustment up here by the table, that's great because then I don't have to worry about threaded rod getting in the way of the legs or bending because it's so long and all that kind of stuff. So I don't need much adjustment in here. I need maybe an inch. So what I think I'm going to do is get some tube steel that is going to fit over top of this and then weld a plate inside of here. And then on top of this piece that's going to sit on top of here, there's going to be the threaded rod going through the middle of that that's going to push down on this leg. So that will give me my little bit of adjustment so that I can get this thing wherever I want to in the shop and then get it level, perfectly true. The only thing that I have that's making me hesitate a little bit about doing it that way is I can adjust the table and get it where I need it to go. But then if I bump the table or move it even an inch, could knock it out of whack. So that's the thing about going the other way is if I do it so that I have like a bracket, some kind of a mechanism beside where the leg is, or maybe 6 inches and behind it where there's threaded rod or a post that comes down and lifts these wheels off the ground, then that's going to make it so the table's not going to move. I mean, the table's probably going to weigh a couple 100 pounds empty, and then you throw a car on it, now it weighs 3,000 pounds. Bumping it, it's not going anywhere. The only challenge with that is there's going to be a bit more engineering involved and a lot more steel. And I don't know that I really want to go down that road because it's not like I do this for a living. This is for fun. I'm just going to have to block these wheels somehow, maybe cut some wedges or build a clamp or something that clamps onto these wheels to keep them from moving once they're locked into position. So I think that's a pretty good solution. So next thing is going to be to get these things going with the MIG welder, get the plates onto there, and then go on to the next step.